All right, it's time for episode 2 of Cringe fan fiction, airing my dirty laundry. Come on in, Bestie. Welcome to Storypod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Listen, welcome to the Storypod podcast. I am your creative BFF, Ashley. Before I get started here, if you would like any sort of story coaching, or if you want to send me a question that you have for your story, please feel free to do so. You can send me an email at ash@creativebff.com, or you can go to my website, to the contact section, which is creativebff.com. All of that's linked below, but also high-key, low-key, like you could send me a cute little Instagram DM to my your creative BFF, _creative BFF on Instagram. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I never can remember my Instagram handles, but it should be in the description below. And that might be the best way to like hit me up, because I, full disclosure, do not really check my emails that often, because listen, part of my 9 to 5 is checking emails. So I'm like not trying to check email on my, on my own time. That's a terrible admission for a businesswoman. Please forgive me, but listen, send me an Instagram DM or throw a comment, below. So what we're doing today, as I mentioned in the beginning, is we are back with episode 2, as promised, of my cringy fan fiction. I will eventually, I think, read through all of it. It's not that much. I had a whole storyline plan. Now, let me rewind. This fan fiction was for one of my favorite games, which is Dragon Age Origins, as I mentioned in my first one, which, if I remember, I will also put a link in the description for you if you care to hear the first episode, so you could be all caught up chronologically. Okay. And what I was trying to do with this fan fiction series was I kind of wanted to fill in the gaps of little additional scenes. I didn't want to rewrite the whole game. I've seen some fan fictions like that where they're literally going through the whole game. And listen, more power to you. I wanted to get to the interesting stuff. I wanted to see the romantic parts. I wanted to see like the warm and fuzzies, but this particular issue, this particular chapter, as it were, of the fan fiction was really one to kind of get us on the road. You know what I'm saying? So it's cringy. I still cringe a little bit, but it's not as cringy as episodes or chapters, I don't even know what to call them, that will come later. This was kind of just more setting up, let's get us on the road a little bit, because I felt like I wanted to give the reader a little bit of like a chronological, like we're moving through the story type situation without actually doing it. So hopefully you are familiar with Dragon Age Origins. If not, I don't think I'm going to like give a whole explanation here, because that would take way too much time. I'm already taking too much time. I'm already stalling. Okay. Trying to get to reading this. Also, to end, I think, my little preamble here, this is an after work special. Okay. So if I seem a little bit sleepy, if my eyes are a little bit more relaxed, if my cadence is a little bit more relaxed as I read this, that is why, preface part 2, I am not an actress and I am not a voice actress. So please bear with me. This is a skill that I don't have, is doing good voice acting. So hopefully this will be, not terrible for your ears. Also, because I want to get this out in a somewhat timely manner, there's not going to be any like pictures and all that kind of stuff, because I need to film and edit this on a short timeline, because I missed an episode last week and I apologize for that. I'm still kind of getting my life together Nothing bad, but so I won't have as much time to do any, not like I do a bunch of fancy editing anyway, honestly. But with the fan fiction ones, I kind of like to try to put some sort of imagery on the screen, but there won't really be that. What you'll see is the words on the screen, the document that I will be reading from. So feel free to put in your headphones and go for a little walk. Get you a little 1,000, maybe 1,500 steps as I read through this episode. Clean your room or whatever have you. You don't really have to look at the screen if you don't want to. But I think that's all of the housekeeping. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to say, but I cannot remember what that was. So it was not that important. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to transition to you being able to see the page. And we're just going to get started here on episode 2, issue 2 of this Dragon Age fan fiction. It is called Departure Draft 2. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. I did not go in and edit this. I left it pretty much as I had it years ago. So there will be maybe 1 or 2 places where I did not actually fully fill in the text. I just left myself notes. So, we are real rap raw here today. Anyway, now we're done with the preamble and I'm going to transition and Departure Draft 2. Alistair stood motionless at the edge of the pond that bordered the strange old woman's hut. Exactly how she and her daughter had saved he and Alwyn from the Tower of Ishal was still a bit of a mystery, though he expected magic was involved. He was too preoccupied with the events that preceded their rescue to bother about such details, however. It didn't seem true. Duncan and his warden brothers dead, King Kaelin and his troops decimated, Tairn Logain, hero of Riverdane, traitor. It was surreal, almost unbelievable. He knew that any one of his warden brothers could die in battle, but all of them at once? It was too much to bear, more than he could comprehend. Alistair had taken for granted that Duncan would lead him and the Grey Wardens in the final charge against the Archdemon. It never crossed his mind that his mentor could die in the first true skirmish against the Darkspawn. Of course, Alistair knew logically that Duncan was mortal, and thus subject to death, but he had always seemed so invincible to Alistair, as though his wisdom and experience alone qualified him for immortality. Though he never spoke it, Alistair always felt subconsciously that Duncan would somehow find a way to overcome even the calling. And now he was gone, murdered by a betrayal. Alistair felt the heat rise up his back and sour his stomach. Logain would pay with his life for what he did. He would see to it personally. The magnitude of what had been lost at Ostagar was so inconceivable that, at any moment, he expected to wake up to Duncan's good-natured scolding. Instead, he heard the croaking, wizened voice of the old woman. "Sit down, lad. Worrying won't make her wounds heal any faster." In a final swift kick to the groin, his only living companion, Alwyn, the newest member of the Wardens, lay on the verge of death. If she died, he would be the only Grey Warden left in Ferelden. And if the Orlesian Wardens didn't come, it would be his sole responsibility to end the blight, or die trying, which seemed the more likely outcome. Overwhelming grief and rage gave way to pure, abject terror. He never considered the fact that he might have to lead. How could he face an army of Darkspawn, an Archdemon, and accusations of treason alone? He couldn't even find his pants half the time. Alistair's heart began to race. Ending the blight with Duncan in full warden ranks would have been a feat. What could 2 or 1 unseasoned warden do? Besides making him the commander of the Ferelden Wardens, a dreadfully frightening thought in itself, her death would also be a depressing end to their budding friendship. Though he'd only known Alwyn for a few days, he sensed something of a kindred spirit in her. Their humor was eerily similar, though she seemed more tactful with the timing of her jokes. She carried herself with a quiet confidence that strengthened those around her and lent itself to a natural, unspoken leadership. Though he was the ranking member of the group, he and the other recruits even found themselves following her lead during their assignment in the Korkari wilds. He'd been so relieved that she survived the joining, he'd nearly laughed out loud to release the pent-up tension. It would have been an inappropriate response, considering the other 2 recruits hadn't made it, unfortunately. That the Maker would allow her to survive the joining, only to die 2 days later, was a horrible thought. Years of wordy, mandatory prayers had given Alistair a distaste for the habit, but he turned to it and the Maker now, somewhat surprised that it actually provided some comfort. Please don't let her die too. There was more sincerity in those few words than in all the memorized, eloquently chanted prayers he'd ever said in the monastery. Almost as a response to his silent prayer, the old woman spoke. See, here is your fellow Grey Warden. You worry too much, young man. Alistair turned toward the door of the hut and was relieved to see Alwyn walking unsteadily in his direction. He met her halfway and grasped her shoulders, both to steady her and to prove to himself that she was real. You're alive. I thought you were dead for sure. She smiled at him. I nearly was at that. I seem to have a knack for escaping deadly situations by the skin of my teeth, with the help of kind strangers, of course. She looked at the old woman gratefully. Ha! I have been called many things in my time, but kind? That's new. So you saw the whole battle? Alwyn hopped over a mossy tree root and instantly regretted the action. Though Morrigan's mother Plymouth had healed the bulk of her wounds, she hadn't had enough rest to fully recover her strength. It didn't help matters that she was dodging darkspawn while traipsing through the notoriously treacherous Korkari wilds, and with a persistent headache to boot. Yes, from afar, Mother and I were a captive audience, as it were. Morrigan, guide and newest companion of the two last Grey Wardens in Ferelden, strolled just off their makeshift path, dodging obstructions with an easy feline grace. It was quite entertaining, to say the least. Alwyn could feel Alistair bristle behind her. Entertaining? How could you possibly find the slaughter of thousands of men and women entertaining? Alistair snorted in disgust. Oh, that's right. I forgot I was talking to a barbarian apostate witch, not a normal, empathetic human being. And you'd do well to remember that in the future, fool Templar. Threat crackled at the edge of Morrigan's steady voice. Lest you find yourself with charred flesh where your vital parts should be. Enough. Alwyn stopped the exchange before the situation could escalate. She surprised herself with how authoritative she sounded. We're all irritable, hungry, and tired, but we have at least 2 hours before we stop for camp, so let's not make this more painful than it has to be by bickering. They walked quietly for a time, each lost in their own thoughts. Alistair was the first to break the silence. So I have a question for you. Morrigan didn't even glance at Alistair. Are you addressing the barbarian apostate witch or our fearless leader? Alistair sighed loudly. You know I'm talking to you. She elegantly leapt from the low, crumbling wall she had been traversing. I see. It's spelled C-A-T. I know that may be a little advanced for your minuscule brain to comprehend. Alwyn groaned at Morrigan's self-satisfied smirk. She wasn't in the mood to babysit 2 quarreling adults. Alistair scowled at the witch but continued. Did you see Duncan die? Alistair? There was a note of warning in Alwyn's voice. She knew this line of questioning could end up very bad, very quickly. Don't. No. I want to know if she saw him. I need to know what happened. The group stopped walking, which thoroughly annoyed Alwyn. Duncan? I'm quite sure I have no idea who you're talking about. Alistair's eyes narrowed into slits. The commander of the Grey Wardens. I know you know who he is. Was. Morrigan must have thought the better of continuing to feign ignorance because she broke his gaze with an exasperated sigh. Yes, I saw your commander of the Grey. Alwyn knew she should stop the dialogue, but she was also curious. Although she wasn't as close to Duncan as Alistair was, she still owed the man her life, such as it was. What happened? His voice was barely above a whisper. After he dispatched the ogre that killed your king, Caitlin, he saw your signal, realized Loghain's betrayal, and let himself be killed. She was so matter-of-fact that she could have been reading off of a grocery list as easily as recounting the last moments of a man's life. Alistair stood stunned and unmoving as Morrigan's words sunk in. When he finally spoke, his eyes filled with tears. You're lying. His shout rang through the unusually quiet marsh. Where was Aginlock when she needed it? 'Tis the truth, whether it suits you or not. Your commander let the despair and betrayal consume him. He stopped fighting, thus allowing himself and the rest of the wardens with him to die. Alwyn remembered with a start Duncan's warning to her when they arrived at Ostagar. Though you have suffered unimaginable loss, you must not allow the tragedy to distract or consume you. If you do, you will not survive. The horrible truth of his words weighed upon her. She would not allow herself to be consumed until she completed her mission. How dare you suggest that Duncan would just give up? Tears streamed unchecked down Alistair's face. Morgan shrunk back just a little, but stood her ground. That someone like you would even speak his name is a disgusting abomination. But to say that he would quit on himself, quit on his wardens, I won't let you make a mockery of the best man I ever knew. Only an idiot asks for a truth he doesn't actually want to hear, Morgan spat back. That the best man you ever knew died a coward has no bearing on my life whatsoever, but it doesn't say much of your standards for personal heroes, does it? That's enough. Alwyn forced herself into the charged space between her companions. This conversation is over. March. Neither moved a muscle, locked in an unspoken battle until Alwyn touched Alistair's shoulder. Alistair. The softly spoken name broke the deadlock. He turned his attention to Alwyn and paused on her face as though recalling where he was. Let's go. Alistair backed down at the gentle command, wiping his face as he turned and began walking. Alwyn turned to Morgan sternly. If you please. The witch resumed her easy stride. Delighted, I'm sure. So here's a little note to myself. Basically, the setup is they stop to set up camp near a stream. Alwyn and Alistair do so in silence. Alwyn sends Morgan hunting for dinner. And after camp is set up, Alistair realizes that, Alwyn, these names are too close. Alwyn realizes that Alistair needs time alone, so she goes to collect more firewood. So back to the reading. Alistair dropped ungracefully to the ground, picked up a stick and began morosely poking at the fire. Alistair, I'm going to collect more firewood. "'Kay," was his only response. He looked so much like a sulky child that she had to stifle a sudden urge to laugh out loud. So I have another note here, forgive the interruption, that basically maybe they're talking about plans to build an army, but head to Lothering, but I just wanted to skip past that. I had intended to come back and write that, but I did not. So basically, we're skipping ahead to after they've eaten, so I assume Morgan has come back to the camp, and Alwyn goes to sit next to Alistair, who is sharpening his sword absent-mindedly. She picks up her own weapons and begins cleaning them, starting with a dagger. So with that, back to the dialogue. So do you want to talk about Duncan? Alistair sighed, but didn't look up from the sword. You don't have to do that. I know you didn't know him as long as I did. That doesn't mean I don't mourn his loss. And he was like a father to you. I understand. Alistair's eyes glinted with indignation as he jerked his head up. Did you hear what that witch was saying about him? I mean, you don't believe any of that nonsense, do you? As you said, you knew him better than I did. Do you believe it? Of course not. Alistair fell silent. When he spoke again, his confidence seemed a bit shaken. But, Maker, what if it is true? What if Duncan did die a coward? Alistair dropped his sword and put his face in his hands. What if he did? Alwyn lightly touched the man's shoulder. He looked up at her. She expected to see tears in his eyes, but was relieved to find them dry, if pained. What if, in a moment of human frailty, Duncan despaired at the loss of friends and companions in an act of betrayal by someone he trusted, and it was at that moment that his life was taken from him? Would it make you love him and respect him any less? Of course not. Would it invalidate the impact he's had on your life? Alistair straightened. No. Would it nullify all the valiant and courageous things he'd done? Alistair smiled. Definitely not. Then what does it matter? I guess it doesn't at that. Alistair let out a deep breath. Really, any of us could die in battle. I shouldn't have lost it. Excuse me. Not when so much is riding on us. Not with the blight and everything. I'm sorry. Alwyn smiled. There's no need to apologize, to me at least. Alwyn glanced over at Morrigan, who had made her own fire a few feet away and was emptying and reorganizing her herb pouch. Alistair groaned. Fine. I'll apologize to the Morrigan later. He looked into the fire. I'd like to have a proper funeral for him. Maybe once this is all done, if we're still alive. I don't think he had any family to speak of. Excuse me. Girl, my mucus won't let me be great. I'm going to repeat that sentence. I'd like to have a proper funeral for him. Maybe once this is all done, if we're still alive. I don't think he had any family to speak of. He had you. I suppose he did. It probably sounds stupid, but part of me wishes I was with him. In the battle. I feel like I abandoned him. Like I abandoned him. The words echoed in her ears. Alwyn forced back the images of fleeing her burning home with Duncan, leaving her parents behind to be discovered and killed by Howe's men. Her protective shield of selective memory and smiles slipped just a little. Her own guilt and shame sliced at her like a blade. No, I understand completely. Thankfully, Alistair seemed to be oblivious to the darkness that had slipped across her face. I think he came from High Ever, or so he said. Maybe I'll go up there sometime. See about putting up something in his honor, I don't know. Alwyn only smiled, afraid that anything more might cause her to lose the tenuous control she had over her emotions. Alistair glanced up at Alwyn, curiosity in his eyes. Curiosity was dangerous. Alwyn hated curiosity. Then came the question she feared more than anything. Have you had someone close to you die? Alwyn stood up abruptly. She shoved the dagger in her belt and turned away from her companion. She needed to get away before she broke completely. Her reaction seemed to surprise Alistair. Not that I mean to pry, I'm just... Everyone I ever loved. She heard the words slip out before her brain could tell her not to say them. She heard him stand, heard him say her name. Though he was right behind her, shocked and apologizing and probably wanting to know more, it seemed as though he were a mile away. She barely felt his hand graze her shoulder as she walked out of camp. I'm going to wash up. Her own voice was muffled as though she were speaking with her fingers in her ears. When she reached the stream, she sank to her knees and splashed her face with the icy water, fighting her gasping lungs for control. How desperately she wished she could lay across her mother's lap and escape the cruelty of reality in the comfort of a cool hand on her brow. She let the intensity of her longing and grief tear at her until she was hollow. As it subsided, she felt a small twinge of pride in that she didn't cry. She finished her washing slowly to ensure she had regained full control of herself before returning to camp. When she got back, a very worried-looking Alistair met her before she reached the fire. Alwyn, are you all right? How stupid of me, I'm so sorry. Alwyn did her best to smile. Her attempt fell short of the brilliance she was going for, but it seemed to put Alistair at ease. No harm done, Alistair. She winked at him to sell the act and felt her guard going back up. Now it's my turn to apologize for losing it. Something in his smile and the quirk of his brow told her he wasn't quite convinced, but to her relief, he let it drop. Well, just don't let it happen again, he said with mock authority. Someone has to be the level-headed, logical voice of reason in this operation. There's only room for one emotional basket case, and I've already claimed that position. Alwyn managed a half smile as she saluted Alistair. Yes, sir. Morrigan snorted from her corner of the camp. Village idiot and resident emotional basket case, My, aren't we a multi-talented boy? Before Alistair could respond to the jab, Alwyn, and then I kind of stopped writing here. Basically, she says something to the effect of wanting to go to High Ever with him to put up something in his honor. I believe also that the Koosland character, which is Alwyn, the character that I made for Alwyn, or the path that I chose for Alwyn, I believe the Koosland is from High Ever, like in the ruling family of High Ever as well. So that is the end of this issue edition, basically. I had intended when I first wrote this to continue and switch back to Alistair's perspective and, you know, give just a little wrap up of that. But I think if I were now to go back and try to touch this fan fiction again, I probably would stop it right there with Alwyn just saying she wants to go to High Ever with Alistair when he goes to set up the memorial for Duncan. So that's the end of this episode. Listen, I have quite a few more little issues of this cringy fan fiction. I don't know if you noticed, if you were looking at the screen, there were some lines of dialogue that were in blue. I think that was code to myself. Oh, excuse me. I think that was code to myself, letting myself know that, oh girl, I still have you on the wrong screen, girl. Hold on, let me transition you back to my face. I think that blue meant that it was dialogue pulled directly from the game. There may have been some other ones that I didn't highlight in blue, but maybe not. I think that might have been all. You can let me know if you know the game back and forth. You can let me know if there was more lines of dialogue that I pulled directly from the game just to kind of, you know, help the reader understand where it was. But 99% of it was me and my dialogue and my own cringe. So with this one out of the way, we can probably move. Sorry if you can hear something outside. We can probably move to more cringy episodes. I also had a couple of I had like a modern day alternate universe that I was kind of playing around with that I didn't do too much in, but I do have a little short snippet of dialogue and just like a little romantic moment between them there. But anyway, listen, my tiredness after work is making me want to ramble, so I'm going to forcibly stop myself here from talking. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Fanfiction Cringe. If you have fanfiction, listen, I'm not the best reader, okay? I'm not the best voice actress, okay? But if you have some cringy fanfiction that you want to share, maybe we can do a little fuck dizzle, read some of your cringy fan fiction. Don't let me be the only one out here on a limb cringing into oblivion. But anyway, listen, love you. Enjoy the rest of your evening or your day or your afternoon or your morning, whatever you're doing. And I shall see you next time. Thank you for bearing with me as I missed an episode last week, but we're back. We're back, baby. Okay, we're back. It was only a short break. Listen, let me get off of here because I'm literally treating you like my friends on this. Girl, let me stop. Let me just stop. Bye. Love you. Have a good rest of your whatever time of day it is.